Traditional parade in Chung Chao returns. Ceremony for Buddha's birthday. And high-level meeting between Chinese and U.S. officials in Washington amid bilateral tensions. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Today is Buddha's birthday. The public holiday also coincides with the Chung Chao Bun Festival, which drew thousands of visitors to the island for the celebration. That has marked the return of a local tradition which had been canceled for 3 years because of the pandemic. A large number of people flocked to Chung Chao to witness the occasion. As of 5 p.m., some 32,000 visitors took the Sun Ferry to the island. Sharon Tang reports live from Chung Chao. So, hi Sharon, what's it like over there now?
Hello. I am right now at the Pak Thai Temple playground where the actual bun scrambling competition will happen right behind me at the stroke of midnight. Tickets will be issued for free at around 10 p.m. at a nearby fire station. Now, there are plenty of things to look out for tonight, which includes whether contestants can perform up to par after a 3-year hiatus. And just like before, there are 9 male contestants and 3 female contestants. But earlier during the day, so many flocked to Chung Chao and braved the heat to watch the spectacular Pewsick Parade, and there are so many of them are tourists from around the globe. So here are some of the highlights of the situation earlier in the afternoon. After 3 years of the pandemic, the legendary Pewsick Parade, which is part of the Chung Chao Bun Festival, finally returned to the island with much color and festivity. The parade began at 2 this afternoon and set off by the patron deities carried by Chung Chao residents. The parade float saw children dressed in characters from TV series and memorable events. They include Secretary for Constitutional and Mainland Affairs Eric Zhang, firemen involved in earthquake relief efforts in Turkey, police officers promoting anti-scam messages, Olympic medalists, and health staff and workers whose roles have been pivotal in the fight against the pandemic. Following the tradition are elements of social concerns, such as the outcry against the reward mechanism on the power outage last month and the opposition to fare hikes for ferries. Also at Chung Chao today was Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs, Alice Mack.
The small children, some of them are like so hot, but amazing spirit. I love it.
The kids were just amazing, you know, they're just amazing. So cute, so well dressed up.
It's quite interesting and special. I think it welcome other people from mainland China to come here and to experience the tradition.
It's a thrill. It's a thrill. I like the music.
Some shops and vendors took the opportunity to earn extra cash. These front row seats each cost $120. Still, it can't beat these balcony seats. After touring around the island, the parade wrapped up at Pak Thai Temple. Another iconic event, the bun snatching competition, will kick off at midnight tonight. So here's what's happening. Kids dressed up as characters marking some of the major events in the city. But most importantly, this parade, what's meant to be for the residents in Chung Chao, is that this parade can get rid of bad diseases and bad luck. Legends say the Chung Chao Bun Festival could be traced back to more than 100 years ago when the island was devastated by a plague during the Qing dynasty. Also known as the Jiao Festival, it has been listed as a festival of intangible cultural heritage in 2011. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Large numbers of residents made their way from the Central Ferry piers to Chung Chao today. Sun Ferry said some 32,000 people had boarded ferries for the island as of 5 this afternoon. The ferry service company said that it arranged an average of 4 to 5 ferries per hour to Chung Chao during the busiest hours of the day. In order to coordinate with the bun snatching competition at midnight, Sun Ferry will increase its number of ordinary ferry rides from Chung Chao to Central starting at 1:15 a.m. tomorrow. Fast ferries will still be available for departure from the island at 2:20 and 5:10 a.m. The Pewsick Parade today is the result of a long tradition as well as careful preparation. Children who dressed up as Chinese deities or folk heroes paraded on platforms began their final preparations this morning. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Sitting patiently and waiting for the makeup to be completed, some of these kids in Chung Chao have waited for 3 years for this special moment. These participants were preparing for Pewsick, otherwise known as the Floating Colors Parade, where young people wear colorful costumes representing folk characters from Chinese history, as well as politicians and entertainment figures. It is a traditional custom that dates back to almost a century ago. Miss Young, a mother of a performer in this year's Pewsick, was a 5-time performer herself starting in 1998. She said she hopes her 4-year-old daughter could carry on her legacy, as many parents consider it an honor for their child to take part in the event. This mother, also a former performer herself, reminded her children to smile and wave to the crowd, telling them not to be nervous. This year's Pewsick themes include historical TV drama and fashion. Some performers portrayed scenes depicting the recent events surrounding the updated district council elections. The organizers noted that there are several requirements for Pewsick performers, such as shorter than 100 centimeters, weighing less than 40 pounds, and most importantly, they cannot be afraid of heights. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Today is the first day of the long weekend holiday. Up until 4 p.m., over 340,000 people had left Hong Kong via different checkpoints. Meanwhile, activities were held in the city to celebrate Buddha's birthday, including a 3-day event at the Hong Kong Coliseum. Mimo Singhai tells more.
The Buddha's birthday, also known as the Buddha Bathing Festival, is one of the spiritual festivals in the city. Legends say when the baby Buddha was born, 9 dragons sprayed water to bathe him. Earlier, the 3-day celebration of the Buddha's birth began at the Hong Kong Coliseum in Hong Kong. Many devotees attended the first day of the celebration. The organizer of the event, the Hong Kong Buddhist Association, said it is pleased to see the public can gather together again after the pandemic. Like the event in Hong Kong, the celebration carnival for Buddha's birthday also returned after a 3-year hiatus. In Victoria Park, ornaments with Buddha elements were put up. Food stalls were set up for visitors to enjoy some vegetarian delicacies, alongside dancing and singing performances. The 3-day holiday offers an opportunity to take a break from the city. Many decided to spend their holiday across the border in the mainland. This was the departure hall at the West Kowloon station this morning. It was packed with travelers and suitcases. According to the train information board, it says many tickets were sold out. Queues were seen at the ticketing counters. Nonetheless, some travelers did not mind waiting, adding it was their first time using the station since the pandemic.
This new train station, that's the first time we came back after COVID, so it was really good, very convenient for all the travelers as well. I think it's very efficient, so people go through quite quickly as well, so it's really good.
Her husband, meanwhile, said their destination is Shenzhen and planned to have dim sum there. This woman decided to travel further, Guangzhou.
Weekend wedding.
So how are you feeling?
I'm excited. I haven't been to China for 3 and a bit years, so it's the first time going back to Guangzhou, so I'm looking forward to that.
MTR reminds passengers to leave sufficient time for immigration procedures. They also need to complete the electronic health declaration required by the mainland before the departure. Mimo Singhai, TVB News.
Commerce Minister Wang Wentao and U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo met in Washington on Thursday in a development seen as a bid to overcome economic and national security problems between the two countries. It was the first cabinet-level exchange between China and the U.S. in months. Raimondo's office described the talks as candid and substantive. Tracy Furness reports.
The relationship between Beijing and Washington has been challenging in recent months. In February, the U.S. shot down a Chinese weather balloon, which the U.S. said was a spy balloon that was flying in American airspace. Last Sunday, G7 leaders pledged to resist China's economic coercion, and Beijing declared U.S. memory chip maker Micron technology a national security risk, banning sales in key domestic industries. On the sidelines of the APEC event in Washington, Beijing's Commerce Minister Wang Wentao raised some concerns in a meeting with the U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. These included economic and trade policies, semiconductors, export control and reviews of foreign investments by the U.S. towards China. Raimondo raised concerns about the recent spate of actions taken by China against U.S. companies operating in China. Both sides agreed to establish and maintain open communication channels, with Raimondo's office saying that would help responsibly manage the relationship. Beijing's Commerce Ministry said the communications would allow exchanges on specific economic trade concerns and cooperation matters. Sino-US analysts believe that the dialogue between Wang and Raimondo could open the doors for more American officials to visit China, but a quick fix to Sino-US relations is highly unlikely in the short term. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Welcome back. U.S. President Joe Biden and Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy are reportedly narrowing their differences on reaching a deal to lift the debt ceiling. After further hard-slog talks, both expressed optimism heading into the weekend that the gulf between their positions could be bridged. Matthew Bray reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden and top congressional Republican Kevin McCarthy on Thursday appeared to be nearing a deal to cut spending and raise the government's $31 trillion debt ceiling, with hardly any time left to head off the risk of default. The deal would specify the total amount the government could spend on discretionary programs like housing and education, according to a person familiar with the talks, but not break that down into individual categories. The two sides are just $70 billion apart on a total figure that would be well over $1 trillion.
Speaker McCarthy and I have had several productive conversations, and our staffs continue to meet as we speak, as a matter of fact, and they're making progress. I've made clear time and again defaulting on our national debt is not an option, and it's time for Congress to act now. Now, I want to be clear that the negotiations we're having with Speaker McCarthy is about the outlines of what the budget will look like, not about default. It's about competing visions for America.
Republicans are demanding spending cuts the Democrats oppose as the price for raising the legal debt limit. Talks went on all day as McCarthy left the Capitol for the evening, and House Republicans displaying risky political bravado left town for the holiday weekend. So the deal that may come together to avoid an economy-shattering default would likely raise the ceiling for 2 years while capping spending on most items.
I thought we made some progress. There's still some outstanding issues, and I've directed our teams to work 24/7 to try to solve this problem.
Weeks of negotiations have failed to produce a deal, largely because the Biden White House has resisted talking about the debt limit, with the talks likely to brush up to the so-called X Day. The only increased funding is likely to be for the military and veterans. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
A founder of a militant group known as the Oath Keepers has been sentenced to 18 years in prison for orchestrating a plot that was allegedly devised to keep Joe Biden out of the White House after the 2020 election. Stuart Rhodes was convicted of seditious conspiracy in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. It is the longest sentence imposed to date over the incident. Rhodes, a former Army paratrooper and Yale-educated lawyer, was convicted by a federal court in November. The charges alleged that Rhodes was leading an attempt to disrupt the transfer of presidential power. Prosecutors alleged Rhodes and his followers amassed weapons at a Virginia hotel to be ferried to Washington if needed. The weapons were never deployed. Back locally, the Hong Kong Observatory has stepped up its hot weather alert services with a new notification system. This as the forecaster warns the South China region is set to face some scorching heat next week, with special reminders to the city's weakest and most vulnerable. Jackie Lin reports.
Under the influence of Super Typhoon Mawar, the Hong Kong Observatory forecasts the city will swelter to as high as 34 degrees Celsius next Tuesday and Wednesday. The scorching heat might also trigger showers and thunderstorms next week. Starting today, the observatory has beefed up the very hot weather warning surface. When the mercury hits the extreme level of 35 degrees Celsius or above, the forecaster will issue a push notification through its My Observatory mobile app, alerting the public about the extreme heat and take appropriate precautions.
Its outer subsiding air is going to bring very hot weather to southern China, and with the possibility of reaching extremely hot conditions. Therefore, the most important thing is to increase the awareness and to take preventive measures against the heat.
The observatory will also offer special weather tips for those more vulnerable to heat stroke, including pregnant women and the elderly. The Senior Citizen Home Safety Association said they received more than 2,400 cases seeking help for emergency dispatch services to hospitals this month. Many cases are related to the sultry weather.
Elderly, which is a high-risk group, we strongly recommend them to keep hydrated, do not expose themselves to hot weathers, and try to seek help if they're feeling unwell.
In recent years, the city has seen hotter temperatures overall. Last year, there were 15 days that recorded a daily maximum temperature at 35 degrees Celsius or above. That's the highest number since records began in Hong Kong. For 2023, the observatory also expects to see a higher than average mean temperature. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The police made a large-scale drug bust, seizing more than 600 kilograms of suspected cocaine and cannabis buds with an estimated value of $650 million. 4 people were arrested. Authorities found the suspected cocaine distributed into over 500 small bags, while the cannabis buds were in a black plastic bag. The alleged drugs were found by the police in the last few days at 2 units inside a Kwun Tong industrial building and several containers in Kwai Chung and Hung Hom. Authorities believe that some of the suspected drugs were concealed in frozen fish products to hide the smell. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend ahead.